and welcome to our presentation, NewSpace Old Rules, an empirical approach to understanding the needs of young space businesses in relation to current space regulation. In this paper, we discuss the commercial space startup industry and the impact of regulation on the success and permanence of entrepreneurial efforts in the new space economy. Far from merely an academic evaluation, over the last year, we've actually interviewed 50 space startup founders all over the world, asking them about their personal experiences with space regulation. And the results were startling. So most respondents noted frustration with the legal bureaucracy of space and an underestimation of its complexity. Others signified regulation as a significant hindrance to the technological development. This paper will look at where legal rules translate into commercial for commercial startups and make recommendations that might go some way to alleviating the issues raised. We will start by highlighting some examples, positive examples of startup space actor facilitation across the globe and make recommendations for the legal services industry itself, focused on enhanced lawyer training and digitization, as well as making wider recommendations for policymakers in the industry. Now, it's not an exaggeration to say that private enterprise has transformed the space industry and that they will continue to transform the industry as key innovators and drivers of change. What was once the playground of governments is now a competitive arena of commerce, driving down costs and working with incredible speed and efficiency. The last 20 years have seen record levels of investment and growth in this industry, and this has led to unprecedented innovation. Unfortunately, there has not been an equal transformation in the legal framework that caters for space activities, and this has had a disincentivizing effect on new commercial space startups. Particularly, the legal regimes that apply to outer space make little effort to facilitate private activities in space, seeing as they were predominantly designed as security treaties for states in the height of the Cold War. The situation is made more problematic by the fact that there's been a slow adoption of more recent international legal frameworks that aim, by way of soft law, to create some binding rules of the road for private entities in space. Moreover, national legislation, which can a ground-up framework for private space regulation, is lacking and rather piecemeal, regulating only certain aspects of space activities. This situation is emblematic of a common narrative thread where legal rules and instruments only clutch at the issues presented by an exponentially expanding technological sphere.
In order to find out more about the perceptions of those affected directly by the regulation of space activities, we decided to ask the founders of 50 space startups about their daily activities, expenditures, troubles, and motivations. In the form of semi-structured interviews and within 17 preset questions, the interviewees had the opportunity to discuss topics like funding, finance, hiring, and their own personal human experience as part of the industry. Unfortunately, soon it started becoming clear that a great number of founders, and especially those coming from technical backgrounds, felt uncomfortable tackling the legal side of their businesses. They struggled to find good advice and couldn't wrap their heads around the complex language and differences in space law and legislation in their respective countries. Things got a lot more complicated when it came to international legal compliance. Beyond the numbers of interviewees that stated that they encountered legal hurdles, the qualitative analysis of interviews showed that generally anything related to law and regulation tends to be postponed in time due to three main factors: the price of legal services, the lack of legal advisors well-versed in space regulation, and the complexity of any legal provisions applicable to them. The founders often perceived law as too difficult to deal with, and that often put them off dealing with any legal matters at all. Whilst acknowledging the importance of proper preparation when it comes to legal issues, especially in an area related to defense and national security, founders were often limited by the stereotypes surrounding law, regulation, and the legal profession. This, of course, does not mean that space regulation needs to be ignored or it's not possible to adapt it to the needs of the incoming new space age. There are various ways in which regulation can be made more accessible to new entrepreneurs, and there have been many positive developments in that area.
We could support new space companies by encouraging international partnerships among space agencies and companies, supporting collaboration between networks and industry, and expanding on the current networks of bi- and multilateral agreements between countries and companies. One model example of a multidisciplinary regional network is the one put in place by the European Space Agency. The IAC Technology Transfer and Business Incubation Office initiated its Business Incubation Center in 2003. To inspire and work with entrepreneurs to turn space-connected business ideas into commercial startup companies. This office provides all the instruments that entrepreneurs and startups need to pursue their business goals and participate in the market. Further, good examples are the NASA Small Business Innovation Research and the Small Business Technology Transfers programs, which aim to enhance the talent and potential of small businesses, offering the extraordinary know-how of the NASA. This collaboration allows new players to enter the market by financing research in the space sector and supporting the development of new technologies, with enormous benefits for the advancement of the space economy. Another interesting example is the Entrepreneurs Accelerator Program, aimed to supporting startups, financing their projects and making their realization possible, thanks to the meeting with a network of investors and a mentoring service. The program lasts 3 months and is able to give a decisive boost to small companies that want to enter the space market. Finally, we should not underestimate the usefulness of Internet resources, which can be a powerful tool for information exchange and the implementation of networks, such as the Space Business podcast, which hold conversation between entrepreneurs and investors in the space sector, allowing the dissemination of useful information about the possibilities offered by the space economy. Let's now introduce some recommendations which aim to better facilitate these space actors. First of all, to improve space lawyers training could be the key. For example, with clinical modules in law schools that work with innovators and focus on creating lawyers who are better suited to entrepreneurial environments. Moreover, the process of entrepreneurship should be introduced more explicitly into law school curriculums, and whether extracurricular programs should be offered. The most prolific period of the legislative production of space law was that of the drafting of the 5 treaties negotiated within the framework of United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, which is conventionally referred to as Corpus Juris Spatialis. There was then a deadlock in legislative production. However, there was a need to regulate particular sectors and categories of activity. An alternative form of regulation of questions concerning the use of outer space was found, the soft law. This regulatory technique seems to be very useful to the needs of the new actors, given that they often correlate to legislative bureaucratic paths that are marked by flexibility and simplicity, which can be adapted to the transnationality of space activities and implemented easier than hard legal mechanisms with less friction from sovereign states. Another road that can be pursued is enhanced digitalization. That means by which the digitization of legal services can assist startups in the space industry are plentiful, if not only fully realized. Examples include intelligent training and drafting services. By automating those processes that do not require lawyer input, the client's costs might be vastly reduced in terms of the billable hour. Thank you for your attention. You can contact us at any time if you have any questions regarding our presentation and in particular about our startups research. Please refer to the links on the screen below.